Taxing the rich is the stupidest thing I've ever heard, but let me explain this to you idiot broke people out there.
Well, clearly that man's never heard himself speak, but it's not surprising he would give that opinion because he's running what looks like an MLM where he needs people to stay broke so he can keep leeching off of them. But actually, contrary to this man's manosphere lies that they perpetuate because they didn't pay attention to history class in high school, taxing the rich at the highest rate we ever have historically is not only how we managed inflation and made it out of the Great Depression, but it's also how we entered our most prosperous era ever. You might know it, called the Big Boom or the Baby Boom if you didn't take a nap during third period every day. And I'm going to explain it to you today in crayon-eating terms, so as always, make sure you like, comment, repost, and follow along for more deep dives. I'm going to at least assume that everyone here is familiar with the Great Depression, right? A terrible economic time in the 1930s in which people were suffering, they couldn't afford food, inflation was really bad, housing rates, very similar complaints to what we're hearing again today, right? And how did they get out of this? Well, FDR implemented the Revenue Act, which was a series of tax legislation, which more importantly relied on MTR or marginal tax rates, especially towards the uber wealthy. The top marginal tax rate was from 24 to 63%. This is what the rich don't want you to know. That doesn't mean their entire income is taxed at 63%. Just anything they made above $1 million was then taxed at 63%. And later they raised the top 5 million to 79%. So if you made any penny over $5 million, it was taxed at 79%. That doesn't mean everything a rich person made was taxed at 79%. And before you cry, I know what you're going to say. Yes, a lot of rich people then started trying to find loopholes and different ways to get out of paying taxes like they do today. And so they decided to enact a new act that really cracked down on that and raised punishments. They started very specifically going after rich people for trying to skimp on this. They also implemented the victory tax, yes, in 1942 because only 5% of Americans at the time paid income tax. So they implemented a small income tax on 75% of Americans, but surprisingly there was not a lot of pushback against this because people felt it their duty to contribute to the country. And this man's trying to trick you into thinking this is a horrible idea because then rich people would just raise prices on everything. Well, what did this actually accomplish? The opposite. I mean, the biggest job booms we've seen in history, the baby boom, more houses, cars, things being sold than ever. Originally designed just to pay for the war and help with excessive inflation, but it did so much more. It helped with healthcare, hospitals, it built the interstate highway system we all know today. It created public job programs that led to the job boom. It helped universities. Helped establish Social Security, the New Deal, and the Second New Deal. Entire families were able to survive and own their own homes and cars off of a single income, which is ironically what he argues we should go back to without understanding what it would take. They don't actually educate themselves on what they're teaching you. They all just regurgitate the same few things their daddy tells them, and luckily, I was homeschooled by my mother.